Israel Academy of Sciences and Humanities was born of the visions of four key figures: Aharon Katzir, Polly Van Leer, Ben-Gurion Dinur, and David Ben-Gurion. Its founding story is bound up with that of the development of Israel's academic system and scientific community in the first decade of the state, whose milestones included the establishment of the Scientific Council in 1948 and of the Council for Higher Education in 1958. The idea of establishing a national academy was first officially broached by Education Minister Professor Ben-Gurion Dinur in 1954 during the deliberations in the Knesset on the proposed Council for Higher Education law. The moving spirit behind the initiative that led to the academy was Professor Aharon Katzir, a world-renowned biochemist at the Weizmann Institute of Science and a socially involved public intellectual. He and his close ally, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, shared a belief in the critical importance of science, technology, and scholarship in shaping a modern society, spurring its cultural development, and ensuring the state's survival. I see the cultivation of science as a condition for our survival.
Making Israel a great center of science in the world is one of our main tasks.
Further impetus for the Academy's establishment came from an unexpected source: Dutch philanthropist Polly Van Leer, then a new immigrant to Israel. Van Leer proposed to establish a Center for the Spirit of Israel, where scientists and intellectuals from Israel and around the world could meet and exchange ideas. Katzir was one of the few to take her idea seriously. He was concerned that scientists, at a time when the impact of their work was constantly increasing, were withdrawing into their ivory towers, unwilling to take social and moral responsibility for the outcomes of their research. The Katzir-Van Leer collaboration engendered a proposal for a center that would house both Van Leer's envisioned Hall of the Spirit and the national academies to be tasked with the cultivation of science and culture. The Van Leer family offered to fund the center's erection and asked the government to allocate land for it in Jerusalem. The government responded in December 1955 by approving the plan for a center to be known as the Israel Center for the Advancement of Human Culture, later to become the Van Leer Institute, which would also house the already established Academy of the Hebrew Language, as well as the proposed academies of the Humanities, the Natural Sciences, and the Arts. A plot known as Karm el-Ruhban in Jerusalem's central Talbiya neighborhood, inherited by the state from the British Mandatory Government, was allotted to the center. To allay concerns raised by the administration of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem that the new center would undermine the university's status, Katzir met with the university's president, Professor Benjamin Mazar, and Professor Yaakov Dori, president of the Technion, Israel Institute of Technology. The three agreed that the academies would not themselves engage in academic instruction or research, and that their authority would rest on the prestige of their members and would develop over time. In a broad assembly of scientists and scholars convened by Ben-Gurion in November 1957, Katzir presented his vision of the future academy. Its missions would be to ensure the quality of Israeli science, to serve as a forum for coordinating scientific and academic activity, and to connect scientific research with national needs. It would also assume responsibility for building ties with Jewish scientists worldwide, which Ben-Gurion saw as one of the Academy's most important roles. Several of the scholars who took part in the meeting were critical of the idea of establishing an academy. They felt that the time was not ripe. As they put it, we must take care not to do something now that we might not be proud of later. They were critical as well of the intention to forge special ties with Jewish academics abroad. Scholarly relations, they argued, must have no regard for distinctions of religion or race. Some were also concerned that the Van Leer family might interfere with the Academy's autonomy. In response, it was clarified that the family had no intention of getting involved with the Academy's operation. The name of the proposed institution also came up for discussion. Ben-Gurion objected to the term academy, both because of its foreign origin and because he feared that it would burden the yet unborn entity with overblown expectations. Suggested alternatives included Beit Va'ad LeChachamim, a gathering place of scholars, and Chever LeMada UlChochma BiYisrael, the Scholarly Society of Israel, but no decision was reached. The initiative's proponents again stressed that the new entity would not compete with Israel's existing academic institutions or undermine their authority. Its purpose was to serve as a forum where eminent academics in all disciplines could come together to discuss scientific and intellectual issues. It was at this meeting that the number of proposed academies was whittled down to one, a single academy to embrace both the natural sciences and the humanities. The meeting concluded with the adoption of Dinur's proposal to appoint a preparatory committee and task it with defining the nature of the proposed institution. The committee's members would be chosen on the basis of their individual scholarly status, with representatives from each of the country's academic institutions. The preparatory committee for the Gathering Place for the Humanities and the Natural Sciences, which received its official appointment from the government a year later, drafted a charter affirming the independent and autonomous status of the Academy, as it was finally called. The Academy would have two divisions, for the natural sciences and the humanities, and the members of the preparatory committee would constitute its founding core. The government ratified the charter in September 1959. At its first official meeting, held in December 1959 at the Beit Hillel Student Center in central Jerusalem, Professor Martin Buber, in the chair, declared the establishment of the Academy. The General Assembly reconvened in February 1960 for a more formal plenary session in the Hebrew University's Senate Hall, at which Buber was elected as the Academy's first president and Aharon Katzir as its vice president. The Academy's members wanted to see its independence and autonomy anchored in statute. In June 1961, the Israel Academy of Sciences and Humanities law, entrenching the Academy's existence, defining its mission, and finalizing its name, was ratified by the Knesset. With the enactment of the law, the establishment of the Israel Academy of Sciences and Humanities was complete. It remained for the new institution to demonstrate its value and establish its status in both the academic and the national arenas.